Hey, if you're over 40, trying to conceive, pregnant, or postpartum, I have just the community for you. Our private community, 4040 Society, is now open. I know how tough trying to conceive can be, and pregnancy can be just as hard. But it doesn't have to be. Inside the community, be surrounded by other women who are just like you. Connect, share your journey, join the discussion, and have a voice in live event conversations. To join, find the link in the show notes or go to over40fabulousandpregnant.com/join. I can't wait to see you inside. Welcome to Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 68. If you are looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, you've come to the right place. Today on the show, we have Janice on to share her pregnancy journey at 46. In this episode, she shares that she's had 5 kids naturally, but in her 20s. And so when she gets in her 40s with a new partner, she struggles to conceive. So to answer your question, she used donor eggs. She's actually one of the few guests that didn't try with her own eggs before going with donor eggs. All of her previous births in her 20s were home births. So she tells us why she ended up with a hospital birth this time. And for my update, today I am a little over 16 weeks pregnant. 3 years to get here. It's so exciting every day. I'm sneaking up to the halfway mark, which is just so exciting. We did get our NIP test results, and I'm so happy everything is normal. The NIP test, just as a reminder, it tests for genetic abnormalities like Down syndrome and trisomy, etc. So that was really exciting to get good news. But I have been having so much back pain and hip pain when I wake up. So if it's not those pains, then I'm rushing to the toilet. So fun, and I'm so happy I get to complain about it. But today I'm going to keep it a little short and sweet. Janice is a nurse, so she gives amazing details. And this episode is just a little longer than our normal episode. But I know you're going to like it. It's such a good story. So let's get on with the show. Janice, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Janice is sharing her pregnancy journey with donor eggs at 46. But before we get started with her story, will you first tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Janice. I'm 46. I live in Western North Carolina. I have 5 children before my Remy that is 3 months old right now is my donor egg story. My partner has 5 children also. So together we have 11 kids, which is wild.
Amazing.
I am a registered nurse. I've been in psychiatric nursing the last 8 years, but I have just recently obtained my IBCLC certification and want to make a career change doing that eventually. That's an international board certified lactation consultant.
Oh, awesome.
And I currently am just orienting for a new job to do a remote nursing job from home for the next little while so that I can be at home with the baby. I don't think I'm going to go back to work at the hospital, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I bet. So you're 3 months postpartum.
Yes.
And so you started having babies in your 20s. Actually, all of your other babies were in your 20s. So tell us a little bit about how those went.
Yeah, very easy. I was very young. I got pregnant at 20 with my first,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a very smooth pregnancy. I'm really thankful that I had a friend who I would have just prepared like a regular birth, very mainstream, like hospital birth. I really didn't know anything about home birth or like natural birth or anything like that. But I had a friend at the time who was also pregnant. She was more like an acquaintance, and we became good friends after being pregnant together. But she introduced me to the Spiritual Midwifery book by Ina May Gaskin.
Oh, yes.
And we lived in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. My ex-husband was from Tennessee. So we lived there and we started going to these classes. It was called Home Birth Midwifery Service.
Mm-hmm.
They had childbirth classes and you met with the midwives. And if you were a good candidate for home birth, you got to plan a home birth and insurance paid for it. And so I was really young and I just feel super fortunate that that was my first experience into being pregnant and having a baby because yeah, I planned that and I had a successful home birth with my first. And then with all of my other kids from my former relationship, they were all home births. So
Oh, wonderful.
I had a set of twins. My 17-year-olds are the next youngest besides Remy, and they were even born at home. We lived in a different state. We moved to Asheville after the first, and so all the rest of them were born at home as well. And my pregnancies were super, super easy. I was young, from 20 to 29 years old with all of them, and absolutely no complications. Yeah, besides the first, they were all like super quick labors. It was my first was born very typical, like going into labor when I woke up in the morning. And then he was born by 1 a.m. the next day. So pretty much just like light labor all day. And then about 4 hours of active labor. That was extremely hard. I didn't remember how hard it was, but I actually watched the video pretty recently before I gave birth this time to kind of prepare me. And it was super I had to really work hard to push that first baby out. But all of the rest of them, they literally just came out with contractions. I mean, I couldn't be more blessed with the way that the rest of my kids were born. They in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
They were born super quick. And I mean, it was hard, but it was so fast that it was so different than my recent birth for sure.
Mm-hmm. So you found your new fiance. How old were you whenever y'all got together?
I was 39.
Okay.
And he was 46, I believe. 46, yes.
And so y'all started trying. And so what did that look like?
Yeah, we started trying. We've been together now for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
We started trying in 2018 we decided we wanted to have another when I was 41, I believe. And unfortunately, he had a vasectomy.
Uh-oh.
We talked about it and we planned that we really, really wanted to do this. And we decided to go the vasectomy reversal route.
Mm-hmm.
So January of 2019, he had a vasectomy reversal. And I remember hearing other people on the podcast, someone had gone through that and they were like, I thought for the longest time it just didn't work. Because after that, and I was the same way. I was very skeptical of the reversal for many months, wondering, is that why we're not getting pregnant? But yeah, so we had to do that. And then we started trying immediately. And after about 6 months, we went the fertility clinic route. And the first clinic that we went to, we really did not like at all. They were super. It was just weird. I don't know how to describe it. It was very much like they just wanted immediately to go like straight to IVF. And they wouldn't really give us a chance or listen to us or let us really have the conversation of what we were trying to do, which in retrospect, I guess it's kind of weird because maybe if we would have gone straight to IVF, I would have like used my own eggs, but that's not the way that it was supposed to be, not the way that it was supposed to turn out.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do. I think that it's really important for people to really vibe with their clinic and really feel like they're being heard, because a place I just don't know how to describe it. We felt so unheard there, and we felt so uncomfortable there. So we didn't want to go there, and we found a different clinic, and we proceeded with 3 IUIs from 2020. We started going in 20, and then we had IUIs from 2020 to 2021 that were unsuccessful. And everything really looked great for every one of those. And I just wasn't getting pregnant.
Mm.
But like the whole cycle, everything looked really good. I had plenty of follicles. It was like kind of, what do they call that? Unexplained infertility. Advanced maternal age, unexplained infertility. My partner has had, fathered a lot of kids. I've mothered a lot of kids. So it was always just kind of this like mystery as to why I wasn't getting pregnant, even though, I am older. It just didn't really pan out. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
Everything always looked good, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So how long did it take to do the IUIs?
Like all together?
Mm-hmm.
So it was probably like a year and a half. We did take a break for a little bit in like the fall of 2021 to basically a year. We took a break of doing anything for about a year, but we were still planning. We decided to do IVF with donor January of last year. So we really for a few months weren't doing anything, but
okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Did you try with your own eggs or do an egg retrieval?
So no, we didn't do that. We had originally, our plan was to work with a doctor up north in Connecticut, New York City, called Rejuvenating Fertility. And we just decided to not go that route because it felt like we were piecing all of our care together from all these different places and clinics. And sometimes people can do that, but just thinking about the costs, and then just really kind of just thinking about the fact that if we spend all of this money and we go through this whole process and it not work, will we be able to do anything else? And is that really what we want to do? Really feeling called that we really wanted to be parents, and we really felt like our spirit baby was calling and already waiting there. And it didn't necessarily matter how they were could be conceived and come
Mm-hmm.
through. I can't really describe it. It was a really spiritual process. It was we just things would happen and we would just feel oh, that's what we need to do, or that's not what we need to do. So our original plan was to go to this clinic up there and do the egg retrieval and things like that, because they accepted older clients. A lot of clinics will not do donor eggs with your own eggs past age 45. So that was another reason was because the clinic wouldn't do that. So we were left with, do we want to travel and do that? And so we were going to do that. And then we decided not to do that. And I can't really describe it. It's just we just felt no, we want to be home. We want to be able to just do it here. And that's not the right thing for us. So we actually want to proceed with donor eggs. And we came to that conclusion. I think also we both really felt I have 5 biological kids, and so I just thought it would be honestly kind of a cool experience, to give it a shot. And it's so weird even talking about it, because now, I mean, once you have a pregnancy with a child and you give birth to that child and you are nursing and you're spending I don't feel like Remy is not my child. He's my child. and I don't know if you've ever done any, I'm sure you have because of your situation as well, but studied epigenetics and really looked into that and all of like the new research that has come out on donor conceived babies and how, what happens inside with how they're not, genetically your blueprint, but your genes alter the way that they develop. So it's not like if the donor parent and my partner had a baby, it would not be the baby that we have. It's totally different. It is my baby. There's 3 influences with the baby. There's the donor genetic material. There's the dad, and there's me. So there's some of all of us in there.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, earlier you mentioned a spiritual baby. Does that mean you had any miscarriages?
No, I did not have any miscarriages. Okay. Very fortunately. Yeah, my problem was not being able to get pregnant in my 40s. But yeah, no, thankfully, no miscarriages.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because I know a lot of times, we see women with children, and it's so easy to assume that they can easily have children. And it's just not true.
Yeah. It was such a different journey for me. It was very, very like taxing mentally and emotionally to have been. I mean, I used to get kind of made fun of in my 20s and my 30s, that don't drink the water that she has, like don't get too close, like fertile myrtle, it's like, how can you be pregnant again? And then go from like my whole 30s, that was the last thing on my mind was having a baby. And then right before I turned 40 with my new partner, it was the biggest thing on my mind. And I was like, this is going to be so easy. This is going to be no problem. And then to have had that, the struggle that I did was really interesting. And we weren't going to pursue it anymore. This was going to be like, we had 3 embryos and we had one failed transfer and then Remy. And if if the third one didn't work, we're definitely going to be done. So,
Well, walk us through picking out a donor. How was that experience for you?
It was very interesting. It was really interesting. So our clinic has kind of 3 different ways that you can go about doing it. You can work with their agencies, and they have like 2 different agencies, and they give you like the information to go in there and pick out a donor that you look through their whole profile and you pick out who you want, and then you actually pay for all of their expenses to travel, to have, to do the process of the collecting of eggs. I don't know why I'm forgetting what that's, egg retrieval. And going through that whole process. And then you pay for their travel, and they actually come to where we are, and they leave their donation with your clinic. And so there's that route through the 2 different agencies. And then they also have had a few fresh donors on site, people that were willing to also go through that process, but they lived locally. So they had that bank. That bank only had like 3 people in it. And then they had some frozen eggs. And this would be, from people that were working with the other 2 agencies that they worked with. And then so they bought a half lot, which was six eggs, or I think that's usually what it is, either 6 or 12. Or if they have way more, then they just kind of split it up, even further. And they have 6 eggs, frozen from somebody that had, were successful or not, and then just donated the rest to the clinic. So they have all those different ways. And at first we went through the donor agencies because that was our first choice, was to look through all the profiles and pick. And it was kind of weird at first, but then it was just totally fine.
Yeah, it's definitely weird at first, like you're online dating or something.
Yeah, it is. It's totally like that. Yeah. And so at first we really were really looking for somebody that had like my physical attributes. And it's interesting because I kind of hear this a lot too
Mm-hmm.
from other people that went through it. And we were just kind of on this mission to look, as much like me as possible. And so we went through kind of, several. We had a couple not work out. We had one that we were super excited about. We felt like she looked so much like me that this was just like the coolest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up not panning out after like 2 months, I think, of really thinking that she was. And I can't like describe that. I don't know if you experience anything like that, but just having to like wait and hear about like, oh, there was this appointment and this didn't happen, or that appointment and that didn't happen. But this particular person just she really just kind of flaked out, like just stopped, like kind of fell off and stopped doing what she needed to do for the process.
Uh-huh.
We're finally like, she hasn't gotten back to us in so long. So I don't think this is going to be available anymore.
Uh,
So, gosh, we're going to have to start all over. And we had been, so it was like from February, March, April. So like 4 months of this.
wow.
And we were like, yeah, so, we're just like, okay, let's start over. And then I emailed back to the office just to check on their frozen eggs, just to see if they had anything. And it was crazy. It was like, she was like, yes, we've had two different ones come in. And I looked at their profile, and the second one that I looked at, I was like, this is it. Like she's the one. I was like, she's the one. This is amazing. And I can't describe it. Like, it was like, if I would have if I would have answered questions, I would have answered them so much like she did,
How
so it was
neat.
that was what ended up being more important was like the other donor that we had picked out for so long. She didn't even finish some of her questions. And I thought
Mm.
about that. It's like, it was definitely like, she wasn't, I mean, you never really know why people want to donate, but she didn't take the time, to really answer anything. She wasn't really like dedicated to the process.
Mm-hmm.
And this young woman was just, I mean, she just had like like a paragraph for a reply. And she's also a nurse. I thought that was really cool. And just everything she had to say was so thoughtful and just really sweet. And I was like, yeah, I felt it. And I sent it to my partner immediately. He was at work, and I sent it to him, and, we talked about it. And I was like, yep, this is it. I said, I want to secure these. This is what I want to do. Felt like that was what we were doing, that our baby was going to happen from that.
That's awesome. And you got 6
Yeah.
frozen eggs,
Yes.
and 3 embryos.
Yes.
That's really good. We only got 2 out of 6 eggs. So 3, I think, is really good.
Did they let yours grow for 6 days?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Because a lot of places don't let them grow for 6 days. And I thought that was really interesting. So with our clinic, they let them grow to the 5th day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they use, what they feel like is the most perfect embryo. But then if the other ones are if they're still growing, they will actually leave them until the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 of ours, so Remy and the one that we still have frozen, are actually 6-day embryos, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we had the first one was the most, like, apparently like the perfect grade embryo that you can have. Like, the picture was like this, just it looked like a little mountain in the middle, and it was perfectly, like, everything was symmetrical, and it just looked like it was like grade A, like AA, and it didn't work. Yeah.
Mm.
And Remy was a 4AB. I can't remember the number because I always get that mixed up what the number is, but he was a BB. He was a BB.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. So what was the transfer like for you?
Yeah. So I'll just talk a little bit about the first one.
Okay.
The first one, when we went for it, the the test that you have to get that I got, the hysteroscopy, where they just go in and look at your uterus, make sure you don't have any polyps, fibroids, things like that. And then they do a biopsy with the mock transfer. And the mock transfer is pretty much just for them to make sure that there's no, that they can get the small little catheter through to where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then they check for endometritis to make sure you don't have really bad inflammation. So all that checked out, and I was scheduled to go, but then I ovulated through.
Uh-oh.
So I had to have a canceled a cycle. And then they recommended me going on Lupron.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an injectable that will keep you from ovulating, will keep your ovulation down for the next cycle. And so it was interesting because that was obviously never my problem, ovulating, because I ovulated through actually 2 cycles were canceled due to me ovulating through them. So I was on all the meds, and I still ovulated.
Wow.
So I think that's interesting too. And I think I might have, because I was always the scientist, like minded, trying to figure everything out throughout these whole like 4 years trying to be pregnant. And I think I kind of might have figured it out after everything. So that's another story. But so I took the Lupron, and then the next cycle was not canceled. It was good to go. And that transfer, like I said, was with a perfectly graded embryo. And we really were super just thinking like, this is it, donor egg, this egg looks great. Like everything's going great. Everything's going to totally work. Like did not think for a minute, like super positive. And then, got the call that it didn't work and was just absolutely devastated. Like just absolutely devastated, and just like, how could this not work? Like, this is what's supposed to, work. And just really, so that was really hard.
Yeah.
And they immediately said, do you need some time, or would you want to go ahead and talk about next steps? And I said, go ahead and let's talk about next steps. I'll hear what you have to say. And so they said, we want you to do this test that's a little more, that shows more than the original just endometrial biopsy. But this one is the Emma Alice test.
Mm-hmm.
This test for inflammation, but it also tests to make sure that the timing of the progesterone shots is adequate for you, that your uterus is receptive to that. And it also tests for good bacteria and bad bacteria. And that was their recommendation, was to do that test, and then another mock transfer. And so we did that for that cycle. And I found out that I didn't have the inflammation. I didn't have any bad bacteria, but I had absolutely no good bacteria at all. Like it was like 0.
Wow.
And I feel like I take really good care of myself. And I actually was taking probiotics every day and have been for years. Mm-hmm. But apparently, there's different bacteria that live in every part of your body.
Uh-huh.
And there's very specific ones. And the data sheet that they give you for your results actually shows what they're looking for, like what they test for. And I had 0, and I'd never even heard of these strains of bacteria. Mm-hmm. And so they wanted you to have at least one or more of one of them. And I had none of them. And so they said, you can use a probiotic of your choice. We just recommend high quality and make sure it has these specific strains in it. The ones that I have been taking for years did not have any of those strains in it, oddly enough. So I started taking those probiotics, and then the next cycle I ovulated through again. It was canceled. I got on the Lupron again. And then the next cycle was November 22nd, 2022. And this one, I was almost like, so I had also, I guess I should say, the first transfer, I was really scared about moving. And I had started running with my friend and started exercising more. But I said, I'm trying to do this, and I better not be doing all this trying to get pregnant. So I stopped running. I stopped being active. With that transfer, I literally did nothing but just lay around and sleep, and was so just like, I just was so like careful of everything.
Mhm.
But then the second time around, I said, I'm not going to stop exercising. It makes me feel really good mentally, and I'm just going to keep doing it. And so I was running. I did not lay around. I took one nap the day of the transfer, after the transfer. And then I started just running and jogging and doing everything that I would normally do. I didn't really think it worked. I was very much like just thinking that it didn't work that time. It's funny, I have this photo and I have this look on my face. You can see me, that it's like the look on my face, was like,
Disappointment,
yeah, I
maybe?
was like that. It's like, yeah, it's like I'm already disappointed, even
Mhm.
though, it was just funny. I was like, this is not going to work. And I'd actually had the thought that I told Robert afterwards. I think that this is just a scam. I think that this whole thing is a scam. And I was very hormonal. I was like hyped up on estrogen and Lupron and progesterone and the crazy wild mix of all that stuff. And I've never been one to take a lot of medication. I am a nurse, but I'm also very natural minded and always try to do the natural thing first. So I've never taken, that. I mean, most people have never taken those medicines that they put you on when you're going through IVF, but they really do make you a little crazy.
Mhm.
And I was just remember saying to him, like right before the transfer, I was like, this is just a scam. Like, this is all a scam. I think they're just taking our money and they're sweet talking us. And like, why are we even doing this? What are we doing? And then, yeah, that's the one that worked.
It's funny. So do you wait for the doctor to call you, or do you take a pregnancy test at home?
I wait.
Mm.
I had for 4 years, I just taken so many pregnancy tests. And I don't know, both times I just waited for the doctor, and they thought that was so funny. They're like, the day you come in for my particular doctor, you come in on the 8th day after the transfer, you wait 8 days, and then you come in and you get your blood drawn that morning, and then you wait for the call. And there's a call, by the end of the day, they'll tell you. But they're just kind of assuming that you're going to have taken a test. And I remember when I went in and she's like, did you take a test? And I was like, no. She's like, really? Did you take a test? And I was like, no, I really didn't. Like, I really just I don't want to do it. I have to get the call from you. So I don't know what it was about that, but yeah.
Do you remember your HGC levels or anything?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I know that they were pretty good. I want to say like it was like 110 maybe.
Okay.
I want to say that, something like that, something like 100 and something. So we decided to go see a movie, and there's like a local like brewery pizza place that we go to watch movies, and it's like a brewery too.
Mm-hmm.
And we were watching Wakanda Forever. And I had the phone like in the movie theater. It's like, okay, the phone can't be like loud, obviously we're in a movie theater, but I had the phone like right in front of me so I could see, when they called. And we're like, I don't know, they might call during this movie, they might not, but we just have to do something to like keep our mind off of it. And I kept thinking that if I'm not pregnant, I can't wait to have a beer. My nerves are shot. Like, if I'm not pregnant, I'm totally going to get a beer and just like relax, because this is the most like nerve-wracking thing. Yeah. And they called, and we went outside to take the call, and it was November, and it was chilly. And yeah, she told me, and I just I started crying, and he was like, what? We are? It's just that it was so exciting. And I mean, we were just like crying, and just like the happiest moment like ever for us. So yeah, in that moment. Yeah.
Did your fiance come outside with you from the movies to listen to the
Yes.
nurse? Okay. That's awesome. And how did you feel? Hearing
just so
you're pregnant.
excited, just so happy. Like I just couldn't believe it. And I would have like these days where I would, kind of forget that I was pregnant
Mhm.
and be like, is this really happening? Like, am I really pregnant? And I would take another pregnancy test and I have like a whole like stack. I just would take them and like I would text them, to my partner and be like, yeah, he's like, yes, I know that you're pregnant. Like you're definitely pregnant. I'm like, I know. I just keep like thinking it's going to go away. Like,
Yeah.
so just being really nervous, like, the whole time and really, just really wanting it to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what was the first trimester like?
So the first trimester was really good. I had no morning sickness. I had a lot of food aversions, which was weird. And so like in my 20s, I never really had morning sickness either. I feel like maybe with my oldest daughter, I had some, but it was never really bad. And it was the kind of thing where I would feel nauseous, but then as long as I would eat something, it would be okay. And so with Remy, it was the same way. Like I would maybe start to feel a little queasy, but as long as I tried to eat around the clock, like I really tried to eat like every 2 hours, some sort of snack that had like a natural sugar and protein. And that's what the clinic recommended too. And I think that really helped like stabilize blood sugar. So that was good. I had major food aversions though. Like I'm a meat eater. I love eggs. I eat eggs once a day, sometimes twice a day. Could not smell an egg, touch an egg. Like wanted nothing to do with eggs the whole first trimester. Didn't really want meat a lot. Meat kind of repulsed me in
That's where I'm
general.
at right now.
Yeah.
Eggs and meat, I'm like, get those away from me.
Yeah, super weird. So I actually read this really interesting article about that because
Uh-huh.
I used to do a lot of like when I had time. Now I don't really have much time to do this, but I would so I'd have a question and I would just Google it. Like so many people do. But I ran across this really interesting article that talked about like it's kind of it's like hardwired in us in pregnant women to not want the things that could possibly make us sick. So like going back to before we were able to preserve and, keep meat good and eggs good to eat and things like that, like we would be, not able to preserve those. And like it was our body's natural way of keeping us from the things that could harm our baby. I thought that was really,
Interesting.
it's like our body really hasn't caught up with the times as far as that goes. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I almost gagged on a piece of steak the other day at lunch. I'm like, but I love steak.
yeah, meat was just so weird to me. I couldn't really eat it until definitely well into the second trimester. And I was kind of worried because I was like, I need to be eating meat right now because I want everything to be good. But you're totally fine if you don't.
Good.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, did you already know the sex from doing the embryos?
No, we decided not to do genetic testing of the embryos because the donor was so young.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, obviously, with my partner being older as well. So he was 50. So we used his sperm and he was 50 years old.
Uh-huh.
Just saying, rocking it out.
That's
Um,
amazing.
but no, so we didn't know the sex from the embryos. We didn't know until our first ultrasound. Well, not the first ultrasound, but the first one where you could see the sex. That's when we found out.
Mhm. How was that?
It was really awesome. So we did have the NIPT testing, but we just opted out of the finding out the sex. So and I actually didn't know that we could have still, because if you don't find out the sex, they don't test for two genetic disorders. And I didn't realize that. Like I just meant we don't want to find out, but they actually just left that part out. So there were a couple of disorders that we didn't know about. And I found out that later. And I was like, oh, okay, well. But so it was kind of cute. We're not really like, we didn't plan like a big thing like gender reveal or anything like that, but we definitely wanted to do something. And so my daughter really loves to make my younger daughter really loves to make desserts and things like that. And so we had her we wanted to get ice cream, but us being like so natural minded, we didn't want to get color ice cream, which in retrospect was so silly. We should have just like gotten some blue and pink ice cream to put underneath the vanilla ice cream. But we got these natural, I think it was like Tillamook, like Marionberry for the boy and strawberry if it was a girl. And those ice creams are natural. So they're like not colored at all. You just have pieces of strawberry and, a little bit of like Marionberry is just this very faintly blue berry, like lighter than a blackberry. So she decided to use food coloring anyway. So she's in there like mixing up food coloring to put underneath the vanilla ice cream and trying to like do this whole thing. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting in the living room, like all of us. And it's taking her forever. And then by the time we get it, it's like soup. Like the video of it is like, we're like, this is like this soupy ice cream. And then we're like digging into the bottom. But I actually really thought I was having a girl. I felt like I just really felt like I was having a girl, and we had a girl's name picked out. And I thought my daughter had said something. We were talking about names, and she had said something like, and it's just going to be, she's the only one that knew. So my daughter was the one to look at the ultrasound to know. And she was making this ice cream dessert for everybody. She made this comment like, and that's a really good name for a girl. And I was like, oh, she just messed up. So I know that we're having a girl. And I remember feeling like, well, now I know, and it's not going to be a surprise. And so I was totally surprised when I got to the blue, because I was like, oh my God, I'm having a boy. So it's a really cute video. Yeah, it's really cool. We didn't care, obviously, either way.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to wait until birth. We wanted to feel prepared. And
so what ratio of genders do you have in your family now?
So 4 boys, 2 girls, and also Robert on his side has 4 boys, or four boys and 2 girls. Yeah.
How fun. Did you use the same one that you went to in your 20s for your midwife care?
So as far as like transferring from regular practice from the fertility clinic, you have to put someone down to have your records transferred to. I purposefully didn't want to choose the big practices around here, kind of that they recommended, because I wanted to try, and even though my age and IVF, I really wanted to try and have the least interventions as possible. So I just decided to go with our family practice. They have one OB/GYN there. And so that's whose name I put on all of the records to be like my primary doctor. But then I decided a few months in, we were kind of deciding what, if we wanted to definitely do that route, or if we wanted to do birthing center or home birth. And we actually, like we were talking about earlier, actually our first choice was to go the birth center route. And we went for like orientation and got our little packets and did the tour and everything. And then they called me to let me know that they were not sure if they could take us on, and they had to have this meeting about it. And then they got back with us and said that they couldn't take us on, being such a new practice and too many risk factors with my age. Yeah.
Now that seems crazy to me, and I would love for you to say it again, but she told me earlier that IVF and donor eggs and her age risked her out of going to the birthing center.
Yes.
So wild.
Yeah. And we were really, that's what we wanted, because we felt like that would be a really good middle ground. I wanted, I was a little more concerned because I'm older in IVF and there are risks in that, but so just going straight for the home birth, I was like, well, this just seems like such a good middle ground. Like we just so wanted to do it. So it was upsetting that we weren't able to do it. And a couple of months after that, we decided that we wanted to pursue a home birth. So I got in touch with one of the midwives that I had actually had with my twins when I was 29. she wasn't my actual midwife for the birth, but she's who I started out with. And she had a prior arrangement. She had a birth that she had to attend to in a different state that was planned before mine. But before I could secure a midwife, she was my midwife for the first few appointments in my 20s with my twins. So we definitely knew each other, and it was really such a special thing to be able to link back up. And she's actually not like doing a lot of births anymore at all, but decided to take me on. Mm-hmm. and be with me. And so our plan was to have a home birth, but we still had our doctor as backup. And they don't technically let you have, like, North Carolina is weird with midwifery. Like, the midwife has to be a nurse midwife. So they have to be under a physician. And there aren't many of those right now in my area. And the ones that do that were filled up to capacity. So I kind of had to, luckily I had a really great doctor, and she was very open. She knew my plan. I did agree to have all of the high risk ultrasounds, but there weren't a ton of them. Like, it wasn't like I was never really, I had to go to the practice for high risk ultrasound management, but it really was just ultrasounds. And then a high risk doctor would come in and explain my ultrasound to me after everyone, but that was pretty much the only thing. And nobody ever referred to me as geriatric.
Oh, that's nice.
Really great. I mean, it advanced maternal age was like on my paperwork, but my doctor never made a big deal about it, like, ever. Like, she was the most, like, laid back as far as that went. Like, she was just so, I think that her children were actually conceived with fertility treatments. And so she was just really, open, and she knew a lot about it, I think. So, from personal experience as well. And so, yeah, we had a few ultrasounds, and I think it was our very first one. We found out that the placenta was lying low. And so that was normal for that time at like 18, 20 weeks. That was normal. But that, we would hope that it would move out of the way by the time I was like, 32 weeks on. And so I had a few more. Everything looked great with all of them except for that. And then it was by the third one, the placenta was still in the way. It had moved a little bit, but it was still in the way. So we had to have the talk of, what are we going to do? At this point, we would be planning a C-section also because of your age. And I really advocated for, we just really want to wait. Like, can we just have one more ultrasound? And they agreed to do that. And that was 37 weeks, 37, it was 36 or 37 weeks. Maybe it was 35. Can't quite remember. I think it was 35 weeks. And it was moved out of the way. So
good.
Got cleared for a vaginal birth at that point, got to not have to have any more ultrasounds. Yeah. So sorry, I just went into this long thing when you're asking me about the doctor. So we had our regular doctor, and then we had the ultrasound practice, and we had my home birth midwife.
What about products? Is there anything that helped you during pregnancy that you can recommend?
Definitely compression socks. I did actually exercise my whole pregnancy. I ran 2 to 3 times a week until that placenta previa. They told me, they did put me on activity restrictions for like 2.5 months. I was on where I couldn't have sex, and I couldn't do rigorous activities, and I couldn't exercise for the placenta previa. So I had to not run during that time. And then by the time the restrictions got lifted, I was very pregnant, and it felt a little weird to run. So I would just walk 2 or 3 times a week. But I actually, whenever I found out, whenever he wasn't coming and I was like 40 plus weeks, I actually started jogging again.
Just to try and get him out.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I can just jog now.
Yeah.
So compression socks were really, I had heard about them. I've never worn them ever in my life, but I'm telling you, they made the biggest difference to be active and pregnant, and like no swollen anything ever. Mm-hmm. The time I had swollen ankles was when I was on a plane. I traveled and I was on a plane. So besides that, though, I swear it was those compression socks. And then also, I actually follow I don't know if any of your listeners follow her, if you've heard of her, but Amy Raup Fertility.
Don't know.
She was like my guru from the time that I wanted to start getting pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed her and actually really changed like my diet. Really got really into meditation, read the book called Spirit Babies. I don't know if
Okay.
you've seen that book,
Uh-uh.
but read the Spirit Baby book, started following Amy Raup, and she has a lot of like free stuff. She has a lot of like classes and groups and things too that you can pay for, but she's got a lot of free information that's really amazing. So her stuff, yoga, ginger tea, lots and lots of ginger tea in the first trimester,
Yes.
and acupuncture.
Oh, yes. I do love acupuncture. My appointment is next weekend.
I love acupuncture. I haven't been since he's been born, but definitely I'm gonna go back. Probably like 6 months postpartum. I'm gonna start going back.
How does it help you? Like, how do you feel better?
It's super relaxed. I usually
Yes.
fall asleep
Me too.
during it. I would really like during my sessions just totally relax, and I would try to visualize what was going on, like if I was trying to conceive or if getting ready for a transfer, or I would really try to envision like what was happening inside of my body. And it was just such a sweet moment to just lay there and like be envisioning that and then fall asleep
Mm-hmm.
and stuff and just feel amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Now, because you had all of your other kids in your 20s, how did you prepare for this one?
Well, I actually thought that I didn't really need any classes or
Mhm.
anything like that, which in retrospect, I wish that we would have had a class.
Okay.
We also were really like my oldest daughter was graduating. We had a lot going on right before he was born in like the beginning part of the summer, traveling. I actually got really sick.
Oh, no.
And I believe it was just from flying. But I still don't know what I had. I don't know if I had COVID and I just tested negative or what was going on. Maybe it was just altitude sickness, but I was sicker than I ever have been my entire life being pregnant. And I think so much of it I just had to do with being on the plane because my sinuses just got all messed up and it was terrible.
Oh,
And I remember that was just terrible. And that headache lasted for like a month after. And I kept, you can't take anything. I did take Tylenol. I tried to not take like anything, but I ended up taking a good bit of Tylenol there during that time.
Mm-hmm.
But
How did you prepare for baby this time?
yeah. So I guess just lots of yoga, lots of meditation really helped. Exercise. I did watch a lot of birth videos, a whole lot of birth videos, including my own.
Fun.
I just kind of thought that really couldn't have imagined that my experience of giving birth because I really just thought that like I was really prepared. So yeah, but I did a lot of things with my body and my mind and spirit for sure.
Mm-hmm. How
But
did you?
I would have taken the classes because I think me and my partner together could have benefited from like doing the classes together before
Yeah,
birth.
I could see that. Now, how did it feel looking back at your birth 20 years ago?
It was very emotional. Like I went probably see, when I had all of my other kids, all of their births were recorded on VHS. So, and not just regular VHS, but like they had all these like mini kind of VHS. I don't know if you remember, like they had all these different kind of camcorders that had all the different size. And so there were some of them I had never seen. And there were,
Wow.
like my two kids in the middle, I didn't get their actual births because they came so fast. Like my second daughter was born from the time my water broke till the time that she was born in 2 hours.
Wow.
My third was like 3.5 hours in the very middle of the night. And he was actually born unassisted. His dad caught him because the midwives weren't there yet. So there were a lot of really fast births that I didn't even get to see like the footage afterwards because we borrowed a camcorder. And by the time like we had it moved, whatever, we just had this tape that we had to put in some sort of adapter to watch that we never got around to. This sounds crazy. So I went actually before I was pregnant. And I watched these like days before we found out that we had a positive pregnancy test, which is kind of cool. But I got them all converted to a flash drive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watched them all and I like have them on my computer backed up and stuff now. So that's cool. But yeah, I was like, I felt really empowered and it was just really special and sweet. And I was like, this is amazing thinking about, doing this again and just excited.
Yeah. And pregnancy wise, how did this birth at 46 compare to your other ones?
It was a lot the same as far as like my health. I was really healthy. I was really active, didn't gain a lot of weight. I was like obsessed with not getting gestational diabetes or hypertension. So I bought my own blood glucose test strips and I had an at-home blood pressure monitor and I took my stuff all the time. My doctor actually let me do a natural test for gestational diabetes. So she didn't make me drink the sugar solution. She just made me have a certain amount of carbohydrates. And I opted to not do the quick test, but I did the 3-hour test like women would do if you had tested positive and then you were coming back, because there's kind of no question about that one. If you do the longer one, it's more definitive. And so I did that one and I ate I can't remember how many carbs it was, but basically I had like, whole grains and natural sugars that equaled the carbs that I was supposed to have. I do think I kind of tricked the test because I didn't realize I went for a walk because I had to hang out at the doctor's office for like 4 hours or something crazy.
Oh God.
And so I ate and then I like took a walk. And then for the second one, I was like just walking around the doctor's office and I never asked about it. I never said, anything because I was like, but I kept I passed it with flying colors. Like they were like, if anything, like, yeah, no, flying colors. It's like you didn't even eat anything. That's because I walked. It's because I walked afterwards. But I kept taking it, throughout my whole pregnancy because I was like, maybe I did like fake it or not fake it, but like fake out the test somehow. And I just wanted to make sure. So I would take it, every day, all throughout the day, and my blood pressure, and never had any problems with any of that at all. So that was very lucky. So in that regard, it was good. I was probably more active than I was in my 20s because I did not used to really ever exercise or anything like that until I got older. Just, I would say more worried though, for sure. More worried, like definitely more anxious, like wondering, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't even remember anything. Like, this is kind of crazy, like having a lot of like, just doubt and anxiety on like my ability to do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess I didn't mention also like my first trimester, what replaced morning sickness was definitely like anxiety and worry and kind of like mental stuff. Like I was kind of a mess mentally the whole first trimester.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And so for the birth, are you ready to get into the birth or is there something else you want to mention about the pregnancy? Did you go into labor naturally or did they start inducing you?
I was kind of planning to start things along with my midwife at around 39 weeks. And so I started taking homeopathics that will just kind of help your body get ready, like energetically, like to let your body know, like, I'm ready to give birth. And so we started some homeopathics, which there's absolutely no side effects whatsoever to homeopathy. It either works for you or it doesn't. So I wanted to do like the least invasive thing to kind of tell my body I was ready. Well, so these are homeopathic. So like homeopathic medicine, like the little pellets.
Okay.
And there were a couple different ones. Caulophyllum, that was a big one. Caulophyllum. And I believe Caulophyllum might be one of them. I don't know if it's so Caulophyllum and like Citrifugia. And one of them is black cohosh, but it's not anything physical black cohosh, because I would not recommend anybody taking that. Some people do, but there have been studies that show adverse reactions with that. But the homeopathic version of that is you're not getting any of the physical herb. It's literally, I look at homeopathy as like energy medicine almost, which sounds real woo woo. But like I said, it either works for you or it doesn't. And there's certain homeopathic things that like I swear by, and others just don't work. Mm-hmm. Like arnica cream. I don't know if you've ever used the homeopathic arnica cream, but I swear by that. It's for sore muscles and bruises, strains, like arthritis kind of symptoms. And that stuff there's nothing in that you would think would work, but I swear you put that stuff on a sore back or a bruise and it like helps.
Yeah.
So it's like either works for you or doesn't. But I started out with those homeopathics and they didn't really work. So I was, come 40 weeks, I was pregnant and I was like, okay, this is cool. My doctor was like, okay, so what's your plan? My doctor did not want to induce me just because I was older or anything like that. Well, she knew I was planning a home birth. And she does, they do have that. Like if somebody's open to that, they'll do that. But she was very open to my plan and had any complications along the way or anything. And so, she said, well, I just want to hear your plan. How long are you willing to go? And I said, I'm going to go 42 weeks. And then if I still haven't had my baby, I'll do an induction. And I just thought for sure, I'm going to have this baby before 42 weeks. So at the 41 week mark, I decided to take castor oil. I'd never had any problems going into labor with my other kids, very spontaneous labors and quick, most of them. And so I took the castor oil. I would also not recommend that. I have a lot of friends who that has worked for in the past, also did not work for me. But basically and maybe I could have taken more of it, but I couldn't imagine have taken more of it because I had diarrhea for like 11 hours. It was awful. It was awful. So that didn't work. And I mean, this whole time I'm exercising, I'm jogging again. I'm just jogging with, big pregnant belly jogging and just like running up and down my driveway. I have a huge long driveway and I was just doing all this stuff. I did a whole kind of, prayer circle to where I just really sat and, said, I'm ready for you whenever you're ready to come. And the interesting thing is that he was supposed to be a Leo. He was supposed to be born August 9th. He didn't end up being born until August 25th. So that made him a Virgo, which I've never had a Virgo baby before. And 41 weeks, still not anything. Tried the castor oil, running up and down everything. And then by 42 weeks, I said, okay, I guess we'll schedule an induction. Well, right before then, my doctor recommended having fetal heart monitoring, which they, would just normally do in a lot of pregnancies like ours, but I never really had any of that. But for the last week, I did have 2 sessions of that, 2 or 3. And everything still looked good. There was one time at the ultrasound place where at the very end they saw something and I had to come back in a couple of days and get another one. And then that one was fine. And so, she said, okay, we know we can wait another week. And then I went in, I just kept thinking it was so interesting. Every night I would feel like I was going into labor. I'd be like, this is it every night. And I'd be like, okay, but I'm so like older that I would get tired at night, And so I was like not able to stay up to be in labor, but I felt like, well, if it's real labor, it's going to keep me up. I'm just going to wake up. So every night I would go to bed thinking, this is it. I'm in labor. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night or wake up in the morning and I'm going to be in labor. Then every night do that and wake up and then just feel like totally normal the next morning and everything's like totally normal. And so, yeah, it did not happen naturally for me. And so I agreed to be induced at 42 weeks, 3 days.
Wow.
And so my doctor had mentioned something in during my pregnancy that she had looked in my records and seen that I had a LEAP procedure for my cervix, on my cervix, because I had precancerous cells in my early 30s. And they don't even, so much changes with like gynecology. Like, I don't even think they do LEEP procedures like they did them, like 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that, like 15 years ago, I guess it was, because my twins were 2, I had a LEEP procedure, and it was for precancerous cells. And so they did like a couple of things, and it was, they were still there. And so to be on the safe side, I mean, I don't regret doing it. I'm glad, I don't want to have cancer, but I had this procedure, and are you familiar with LEEP procedures?
No, I haven't heard of it.
So they go in, and they basically they scrape, and then they like laser off all of the bad cells that they see. But the way that your cervix has to like heal from it,
Mm-hmm.
you can have a lot of scar tissue. And so my doctor had just mentioned, sometimes when you have had that procedure, and especially because it's been so long, she's like, that may play a role into how you start labor. And I was like, oh, okay, well, hopefully not. And I kind of talked it over with my midwife, and one of her colleagues had the procedure a couple of years before she had a child. Well, she actually had twins, but it was just a couple of years since the procedure. So mine happened to be 15 years. And apparently I had a lot of scar tissue that really played a big role into me starting labor. So 42 weeks, 3 days, get admitted into the hospital. And my first thing I wanted to do, I didn't want to have Pitocin right away. So I had the balloon catheter that they do. And that is like a physical way for them to open up your cervix. They go in just like a regular urinary catheter, but instead of going through the urethra, they go up to your cervix. And as the balloon is really, they put it up there, and then they inflate the balloon, and it's supposed to help open your cervix the longer that balloon sits up there. Well, it can stay in from like 3 to 12 hours. It can only stay in for 12 hours. Mine, they say that it's supposed to like fall out when you're dilated. Like the hope is to get you 4 centimeters dilated. Mm-hmm. Well, after almost 12 hours, I was 3 centimeters dilated. Ugh. And they didn't really think much was happening at all, because it wasn't just coming out, and they would kind of try and tug, and it wouldn't come out easily. And then this one nurse actually came in and was able to, tug just a little bit harder to get it to come out. And I was 3 centimeters. And so I was like, okay, so that was one day when I first got there. And then the next day, nothing. So I thought that would put me into labor. And I actually felt like I was in labor while it was in. And I was like, this is it. I'm in labor. And then they took it out, and everything just started to go away. And that night, I could not sleep because I was so uncomfortable, like had those monitors that, they want to keep the monitors on you, even though they're wireless. They're basically like strapped to you. If you don't want the wires, then they strap them to you with the kind of this like belly band thing. And it's just the most uncomfortable thing when you're 40 weeks pregnant to have something stuck to you and just itchy and so uncomfortable. So basically didn't sleep all that night. But I had a birthing room with a birthing tub. So I had a big tub in the room. The hospital that I gave birth in doesn't allow you to actually have a water birth, but they have rooms with a tub to just labor in, but you're not supposed to actually have the baby in the tubs. I was using that tub to just try and relax and be able to go to sleep. And I must have gotten maybe like, I don't know, I could not sleep that whole night because the monitors were going off. And I remember asking a nurse, can I take these things off? And like, I think that's what it was. I was like, can I take these things off? I just have to get some sleep. Totally not used to this environment, like at all. Like, did not want to have a hospital birth. She finally did and got the okay for that. I took the bath. I was able to relax. I got a few hours sleep, and then the doctor's in the next morning. My doctor's letting me know that she's leaving. And so the other doctor of the practice that I met one other time is going to end up being my doctor that I've only met one time. But she is amazing. She actually worked for a different practice that was more like holistic based, and that didn't take insurance. And it was kind of like a wellness kind of thing where people pay a monthly membership to go there. So she was great. She was really great. But just, in that moment, like, it's not even going to be my doctor, or like, all that anxiety that comes with that.
Yeah.
And then, we talk about the plan. The plan is, okay, well, I guess I'm going to start Pitocin today. And, thinking, okay, I really don't want to do this Pitocin thing. But this is where I'm at, ready to have this baby. And I was like, it's, probably just going to take a little bit of Pitocin, like not really knowing a lot about Pitocin, not a labor and delivery nurse, not really in this realm. Like, I don't exactly know all about this, but I've heard it's really strong, and I'm sure it's just going to take a little bit. They start you at, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting this right now. They start you at, I think like 2 or 3 units per hour of Pitocin, something like that, really small. They can go up to 20. That's just like the standing order. And past that, they have to get, at least at this hospital, past that, they have to get another order for Pitocin. And I started Pitocin at 11 a.m. And I am bouncing on the ball, like so excited. Like, my friend comes to visit, walking around, didn't hardly eat any sugar my whole pregnancy, but she's like, just eat some Oreos, like gluten-free. I'm gluten-free. That's something I did to prepare for pregnancy like 4 years ago. And I've been ever since. Gives me these, like, brings me these gluten-free Oreos. It's like, eat these Oreos, you're about to go into labor. And this is what I did. And just all these silly little things. So excited, ready, ready, ready. And no labor for hours and hours and hours and hours. And finally,
even with the Pitocin.
With the Pitocin, yes.
Wow.
And I guess I should go back a little bit and mention that my midwife swept my membranes 3 times. And I was kind of scared to do it, because I didn't want to go into labor so quick before. I just wanted everything to happen naturally. But we ended up before the hospital doing that 3 times. And then my doctor did it 1 time. And then when I got to the hospital, I had the balloon catheter, and then the doctor did it again. So it was like, and every time she kept checking, and I wasn't dilating like at all. And labor was not even happening until about, so with the Pitocin, it got to 20, and they had to get another order to go up on the Pitocin. And so they kept going, and my labor didn't start until it was up to 28 units.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like a lot of Pitocin. And thinking about it now, like, I would recommend, like, anybody who's at the hospital getting Pitocin to request that they give your body a little bit of time in between, because you can ramp it up every 15 minutes. And so every 15 minutes, they were like, okay, you're not really in labor. You're not really in labor. Okay, let's just keep going. And then they hit that 28 mark, and I was just all of a sudden in labor. And it was like, I was really excited. And then it started, but it was like, an hour, 2 hours into it, maybe longer. You have no concept of time when you're in labor. So I can't really know about time, but I just know that it went from like being like somewhat manageable to being like absolutely out of control really fast. And I just kept thinking that, I'm backing up again. So with the whole process of these 2 days trying to go into labor, and this is this is a lot of information, like TMI maybe, but this is what happened is I was losing like tremendous amounts of tissue before labor. And I was having like a period, which bloody show is usually kind of like this one thing, this one moment or either right before the baby comes, but I was losing so much blood and tissue, like trying to get into labor. And it was because of my cervix. So my cervix was like completely unresponsive because there was so much scar tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like days of trying to get rid of all this scar tissue before I actually would start dilating.
Wow.
And so I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm really in active labor because I don't ever remember like losing blood until right before the babies were born,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just a little bit like the day before or whatever, when what they call bloody show. But this was just so interesting because I kept thinking, oh my gosh, this is about to happen. This is about to happen. I'm like, nope. I mean, and it was just all night long. And the labor was the most intense labor that I've ever experienced. Like I mean, I was very much, in that zone of, even though I was hooked up to Pitocin and fluids, which I'd never been before. And these monitors, I feel like I did a really good job, really just being inside of myself and trying to, hone in on the spiritual presence that was going to help me get through this. And I was able to do that for a good long time. Then somewhere at some point, it was just, I was so tired and everybody around me was so tired. And it was like, I kept thinking he was going to be born. I was like, this is it. This is it. Because the pain that I was experiencing was like the pain that I remember having right before the other kids were born. And I said, people are like, how can you have that many kids naturally at home with like nothing? And like, how do you do that? I'm like, because they were fast.
Yeah.
Like they were fast. I was like, if I ever had to go through like days in the pain that I had right before they were born, like, I don't know if I could do it. And that's like really what this ended up to be. It was so long. It was like, technically in labor for like days, but like active labor where it was so crazy, like 12 hours.
Yeah.
And then like, I was so tired because I'd been going on like 4 hours sleep, in the last few days.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, nothing like the pain that I experienced with my other kids. They actually did an ultrasound during my labor just to check on his position. And he had actually turned. So I was having back labor. He turned posterior somewhere, like on the way down. He was turned posterior. And I'd never had back labor before. And so I was having back labor, which is the most excruciating thing. It felt like a train was driving through like my lower back bottom, like through like my butt, basically. It was
oh my gosh.
It was, and he wasn't, they kept checking me and checking me and checking me. And I was like, I got to like 7 centimeters and I just wasn't moving. And it just felt like so long. We tried to get some nitrous oxide because I guess the hospital has nitrous oxide. They weren't able to get that. I was like, passing out. And then with every contraction, just like screaming. And I was doing the whole like low moaning, like, I'm pretty sure I kept the whole hospital like up, like everybody knew, like that girl that's in room, whatever, like she's like it was just, that's all I could do, for the pain was like, I could not relax at all. I was just trying to like take naps in between. I was throwing up, like nothing like having my other kids. It was just, it got so hard. And my midwife was actually, because my home birth midwife came with me to the hospital as my doula. So at the hospital, she was my doula. And we did, all kinds of really amazing stuff. And it was just all this very beautiful, amazing thing until it just got so tough.
Yeah.
And she was like, you just need, you need to be able to relax to get this baby out. You need to be able to relax. And I could not relax. The pain was so bad. I just couldn't relax. I had like exalted all my efforts to just relax. Mm-hmm. And she said, she actually said, have you thought about an epidural?
That's what I was going to ask.
I was like, how can my midwife be suggesting me get an epidural?
The opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I was very against it at first. Mm-hmm. And I must have labored for like a couple more hours. And I mean, I was crying. I've, just never been in so much pain in all of my life. And I thought at one point, like I got really scared towards the end. And that wasn't anything that had happened to me either. I was worried about the baby, and I was worried about me. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, what is happening? I feel like I don't have the energy. And then finally I was like, yes, give me the epidural, give me the epidural. But I was scared of the epidural. I've never wanted that because I'm just scared of that whole process. So that was really scary for me. My partner actually passed out as I was getting it. He was having a moment and he passed out, like totally fainted. So
fell on the floor.
Like in his own lap, like,
okay.
not in the floor, but having to like be so still. And I remember I just kept thinking, like, how am I supposed to be still when I'm having these contractions, and just like praying, like, please just let me be able to be still and like this whole thing be okay. And it was just so different. It was just so scary. That's the only way I can describe it. It really was scary for me. But man, I got that epidural, and I guess, so one side of me did not get numb and I could still feel. And so they gave me a little more. And then I was like, yeah, definitely can't feel anything. I just feel like, this like pressure when they would like, touch. It's kind of hard to describe. You just feel like this pressure, but you don't feel any pain. And so I was like, okay. And I was so tired. I just fell asleep. And then I was like, because that's what they wanted. They were like, maybe you just need to kind of take a nap and you just need to be able to relax. And then we'll visit this in a few hours. And so, I think my midwife also really thought I forgot to mention, they came in towards the beginning of the labor, and his heart rate was doing some things, and they came in and were already like wanting me to sign a consent for a C-section. And all these people were in the room talking to me about C-section. And I'm so grateful for the nurses that I had, because they just came right in, they moved me, and then his heart rate got back to normal.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And so that was another thing, as the position that I had given birth in, or at least labored in for most of my other kids, was the hands and knees position, like hands and knees with my head kind of like on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I would get in that position at the hospital, his heart rate would decelerate. We would have this, what they call late decels. And those are the ones that they worry about. And every time I would get in that position, that would happen.
Wow.
And so think about like a home birth, that's probably happening, but you're not monitoring it. And then they're about to come out. And so it's okay. But in the hospital setting, you're being monitored the whole time. So I couldn't use that position. And it was so hard for me, because that was like my biggest pain coping, position, and I couldn't use it. So I really feel like my midwife, that was another one of my really big fears, is that I thought, I just didn't want to have a C-section. Obviously, if you have to have a C-section, or even if you plan to have a C-section, that's totally fine. Everybody is their own individual journey, what they want to do, what they need to do, everything's totally fine. But just like for me, I was really scared of that. I was just really, really scared of that. And I think my midwife kind of saw that coming, because I was so exhausted, and because it had been so long. And I think that she was really looking out. She was just really trying to be like, well, let's just try and do this and see what happens,
Yeah.
Even this is not normally what we would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I fell asleep, and I honestly thought it was going to be a lot longer. And they were waking me up. It was like an hour later, they were waking me up. The doctor was waking me up. She says, well, you're 10 centimeters dilated. Let's push this baby out. I was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to get to sleep for longer. Like, what do you mean? So I was like, okay. I was like, I've never done this before. Like the total, like, you can't feel anything. So you're just laying there. And so, like legs in stirrups, like, and, a million people in the room, and like they had the NICU, just in case something was wrong with him. And like my mom was there. She had never been to any of my other births. My partner, the whole room of like the high risk people. And just, I mean, the whole room was filled with people. And luckily, I think the lights were actually dimmed. They didn't have the bright lights on, which was very thoughtful.
Yeah.
My friend, one of my best friends, she was going to record the birth if we were having a home birth, but in the hospital, they won't let you record the birth. But I'm so happy that she did what she did because she totally recorded it. She just recorded it on her
That's
on
great.
phone, which is really special. I'm so glad she did that. So she shows up like literally right before he's born and takes a video. But yeah, I had to push him out. And I'm like, well, I was like, how am I going to push him out? I can't feel anything. Like, and so they just totally like, coached me through it. Like, okay, you're having a contraction. They leave the Pitocin on. So you continue having contractions. And the nurse would just tell me, okay, you're having one and, time to push. And I tried to use my really deep, moaning skills instead of like the other stuff that you can do apparently that's not as effective getting the baby out, which I only pushed out my first child, being my first, pregnancy and first childbirth. That's the only one that I ever actually pushed out. The other ones, they literally just came out with a contraction. I was kind of like bearing down and just like, and they just came right on out.
Wow.
So it was very interesting, totally different. I had to be coached and he came out, I guess, it didn't really take that long. Can't quite remember. I want to say maybe 40 minutes, like 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And it was just this most bizarre sensation. And just, I was so exhausted. And obviously it was like, one of the happiest moments of my life. I thought he was actually never like the buildup of him actually being born was like, well, getting pregnant, I always said, it was like, it took forever to get pregnant with him. And it's taking forever to, took forever to give birth to him. But yeah, he came out and he was super healthy.
And so what was important to you after he came out? Skin to skin, delayed cord cutting, any of that?
Yes, all of that. All of that. And so it was interesting, like at the hospital, they really made a really big deal, which they should. It's something that you have to worry about. And of course, they don't want to be responsible for anything, but hemorrhaging. They talked to me this whole hemorrhaging spiel. And apparently I was a very high number on the hemorrhage index. Like it was almost like they just kind of manifested me to hemorrhage because they were just expecting me to because of all these things. So I had to kind of agree for all these things that would happen if I hemorrhaged. So I actually, so weird. I hemorrhaged, but not technically. But I was losing blood after birth, which, you're losing blood after birth, but I was losing more than they would like to see. And so it became like a big deal right after he was born. So I would have liked him to delay cord clamping for a lot longer. My plan was to just have it connected all the way until we went home, but they had to cut it. It had stopped pulsating. So, but I think it was just like a few minutes after he was born that we cut it because I was losing that blood and they were really trying to figure out for quite some time how, where it was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up having to go to the OR shortly after him being born as well, because after all of that, I ended up in this like hemorrhaging situation.
Whoa.
Not bad enough to have to receive blood, but they could not figure out where it was coming from. So they took me to the OR just to be under the lights and to be able to just get a clearer picture of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I got whisked away to the OR, which was a whole other like frightening experience. And, they let me he was with me nursing all the way up until, I got in the room and then the other nurse took him out and I was away from him for probably only a little over an hour. But I was just so scared. So I will say, I work at a hospital. I am a nurse. I'm a psychiatric nurse. I did start in neuro. So I am comfortable working in a hospital, being in a hospital. I myself have never been to the hospital for any kind of care. ever. When I was smaller, most of my family members, only time we ever went to the hospital was when someone was like critically ill. So going to nursing school and that whole, journey of my career acclimated me into being comfortable enough in hospitals. But me actually I've never had, any kind of experience like that. And I was just scared to death, honestly. I thought that, I was like, oh my gosh, he's okay. Okay. I know he's okay. Well, like, am I okay? Like, am I going to be able to, have this experience with him, or is something happening to me right now? And so, but I was okay. They actually stitched my cervix, that dang cervix. That was like all the problems. They said they used the word tattered. They said that it was in rough shape afterwards, that it was like, it was very rough. Like it had to go through so much. And so I had stitches on my cervix. I've never heard of anybody ever having stitches on their cervix, but I did. And then, they were satisfied with my bleeding getting under control and never had to have blood or anything. And so I got to go, back and be back with him. Never been so exhausted in all of my life. But yes, cord clamping was important to me, but it didn't end up being like a big deal.
Yeah. Now I saw you had a picture of your placenta. Did you save that or anything?
Did. Yes, I saved it. I have saved my placenta with all of my other kids, except for my second. My daughter's accidentally got it just taken away from the house, I guess, by the midwives. They didn't know I wanted to keep it. But all the other kids, I have a placenta story. So my first, I ate his placenta with my first.
Like pills or like something else?
We sauteed it with onions and garlic, and I ate it like liver and onions.
How did it taste? Like liver and onions?
So I was a vegetarian, but I decided to eat my own placenta. I was very young, and I was very into other cultures. I mean, I still am. I mean, just learning about other cultures, and a lot of other cultures, that's what they do. They'll have like a little meal with their placenta afterwards, and it's supposed to give you, everything that you lost. I didn't feel as drawn to that or making placenta medicine because the placenta did not technically form from me. So I didn't feel like that was taking away from my body. I was very grateful for it, but I didn't feel like I needed to consume it. With my second, like I said, it got lost. The midwives took it, didn't realize I wanted to keep it. My third, I did do the placenta medicine, where you char the placenta and you put it in capsules and you take that to replenish energy and things like that to help with like bonding with your child and things. So I did that with my third. And with the twins, I just saved the placenta for 11 years.
How did you save it?
In my freezer. I was actually part of a Facebook group called I've had a placenta in the freezer for 10 years. It's really silly, just like really silly, because we moved a lot and my goal was to plant it. And I just never really felt like we were at a place to plant it. But the house we live in now, my twins are 17 now. When they were in the 5th grade, we finally planted it in the backyard under a blueberry bush.
Now, going back to your first one, I'm so fascinated. How did it taste?
It tastes really good. Like I said, I was a vegetarian, so it was super weird for me to my family was like, "Why do you want to do that? You're a vegetarian. That's so weird." I'm like, "Well, it's from me." And I mean, I was just really up for the experience, I guess. And I remember it making me feel really good. I don't know if that was just kind of psychosomatic or like what, but I remember feeling like definitely wasn't. I was also only 21 years old. So
yeah.
I was like bounced back super quick, just like nothing, after, giving birth at 21. But I remember having a lot of energy and never really being tired, and I wasn't sleeping. And I remember being like, wow, that's exactly what I needed at the time. Well, I will say, as far as Remy's placenta, I decided to do placenta prints with it this time. which is, so we kept it, in a cooler, on some ice, and I didn't really get around to it for a couple of weeks, but you basically just take it out, and it's it's a very spiritual, like amazing thing. I would highly recommend it to save your placenta and really like spend time with it. Because of different cultural traditions, they say, that the placenta is kind of like the twin. I actually, with my other kids too, had placenta readings with them where they had one of the elder midwives in the community many, many years ago when I was having my kids, read placentas. And she would come and visit you and lay out your placenta. And there's a maternal side and a fetal side. And she would go over all the different, where you see all the different veins in the placenta. They look like a tree of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so they form all these different like paths, and she'll go into like the spiritual journey of your child based on what the placenta looks like this representation of like kind of how they will be in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And where they came from. And so I had that with my with my third and with my twins. And so I reached out for that, but I don't think that she's around, and she's not around this area anymore, and wasn't able to make that happen for Remy. But I did save it and kind of do that kind of myself, just kind of look at it and really get my hands on it and just spend some time with it. It's a very, very spiritual, sacred thing to do. Just giving thanks and spending that time with it. And the prints, I didn't do mine in any really special way. There's all kinds of really fancy ways to do it, but I just got some big pieces of poster board and just made sure that I printed it on both sides. I would have liked, I didn't get the whole umbilical cord. So if anybody wants to do this at the hospital, I think that they take part of the cord and they do cord sampling and they test it at the hospital. And I never remember giving consent for them to do that. But I remember when I did clinicals at the hospital, seeing all the little cords in like the sample cups. So I'm pretty sure they just not many people want to like take their placentas home with them like me. So I think they just have always done that for years. And if you don't tell them that you don't want them to do that, they just do it. So I was surprised to see that the whole cord wasn't there. I only have like a piece of the cord with the placenta, which I was a little bummed about because I wanted to have his whole cord, because I always have with my other kids, but I have a piece of it. And so you just lay it out all bloody and you make prints. And then I want to revisit it, at a later time and paint and, make a painting with it, but that'll be in the future. And then I just froze it to plant for later.
I'm looking at photos online of placenta prints. And so you're saying that the blood is kind of like the first print, and then you go later and paint it.
You can do that, or you can just paint it and do prints from the paint. Yeah, people do it all different ways.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I do like the planting it.
I know it seems kind of weird to people maybe, but it's really special to me. I love it.
It's like giving thanks. Thank you for carrying my baby through this journey.
Yeah. And they, as we get older, they always talk about, well, like if you don't use donor eggs and you're older and it's your own placenta, they always worry about like the placenta degrading. And then if you use donor eggs, they worry about your body rejecting it towards the end. So that's also, it's like, well, this placenta is totally healthy and beautiful and normal. And my body did not reject it so much to where I didn't have my baby until 42 and a half weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great. Was there anything else you want to mention about the placenta before we go into your recovery?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, how was your recovery?
So I would say it's definitely a little or a lot less quick than when I was in my 20s, for sure. We had some breastfeeding challenges, which I was also really not prepared for. I mean, prepared for in the sense that I've studied them and I knew what to look for. And so I knew I had all this knowledge in my head of like what to look for and what to do, but not thinking that that would be me at all. Like never really had any challenges with my other kids, just kind of popped them on the boob and went, but definitely he had tongue tie and lip tie and just all these different things. And so it was pretty rough in the beginning. So there was that. And then, even though I knew at the time from my birth, and especially now, definitely know that it needed to happen the way it happened, having total gratefulness for everything. But definitely right afterwards, after a few days passed, definitely kind of struggling with the fact that oh, I'm kind of a failure because I didn't have him naturally. And if I would have just waited a little bit longer, maybe I could have just had him naturally. And so having that, and then just feeling like it did feel traumatic for me, the birth, even though to a lot of people that would not be a traumatic birth at all, but we're also different, and we all have experiences and perception. And coming from the place that I, came from, it felt traumatic.
Yeah, it's not what you really wanted either in the first place.
Yeah. And just worrying about him. I don't remember being so worried and anxious, that postpartum. So it took me a lot longer to kind of come back to myself and have a little bit more faith. Yeah, it was kind of a mess. So, yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
And just way more tired, so much more tired. And my, the soreness of my body, from all the positions that I was in. And I was doing a lot of this, hanging over things with my arms. And I was sore for 2 weeks. My body was sore from giving birth.
Wow.
Even though I exercised all the time.
Yeah.
I was sore. And it was hard to it was hard to do things. I was just a lot more sore. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you today?
Good. Yeah, definitely good. Definitely getting back, feeling definitely not sore anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up a little sore, honestly, every day from nursing so much and things. And just being older, my body's definitely more sore in general at times, but not sore from the birth.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, so I could tell that he had a tongue tie in the beginning days after he was born. And he didn't have the one in the very front that the doctors diagnosed, but he had a posterior one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of felt like that was going on, and I wasn't really feeling all that heard in the hospital with that. And I just felt like he wasn't, I could tell that his latch wasn't good. I had really sore nipples. So I had sore nipples, cracked nipples. So I was in pain nursing, and that had never happened before. So when he was nursing, it was hurting because he didn't have a good latch, and I had already had damage to my nipples. So having to deal with that in just the first few days after birth was hard. So it kind of compounded everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I started supplementing with donor milk in the hospital, and that was super helpful. And yeah, we still supplement some with donor milk. So he's exclusively fed with breast milk, mainly my milk, but we still use some donor milk. And yeah, that was just a very hard process, but I'm really grateful for donor milk. I'm grateful that we live in a community for that. And I didn't want to have to go to formula as my first choice. So
yeah, that's great.
Good with all that today though. So I'm really grateful.
For the tongue ties, what needed to be corrected there?
Yeah, so they do, you have an evaluation with a pediatric dentist. And so we started going to occupational therapy actually with him, that some of my lactation mentors recommended to us. And so they do body work with them. And then they recommend, if they think you might want to be seen by a pediatric dentist, and his was bad enough to where they wanted him to go to the dentist. And then he had a grade 3 or stage 3 tongue tie and lip tie, which is one away from the kind of the worst you can have. And it just really limits the way that the tongue is supposed to do all of its things, on multiple levels. And then later it can limit like speech development. So it is good to have it corrected, I think. We got it corrected pretty early at 3 weeks. And it wasn't like the kind of night and day difference that some people have, but gradually over time with the occupational therapy exercises and things, it helped for sure.
Mm. Did they have to cut it or anything like that?
So if they have like a traditional anterior tongue tie, then they can snip it, but his was posterior. So like instead of right here, it's actually where the tongue attaches in the very back bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had a pretty thick little spot. They laser it. So they laser it at a pediatric dentist, and it is very, very quick. They numb it and then they laser it. It takes like 10 minutes, but it was very traumatic. He didn't actually cry during it. Okay, well, they take them into a room and you're actually not with them for like 5 or 10 minutes. And that's really, really hard. But we didn't hear him cry. You can hear the cry and we didn't hear him cry. And they're like, he didn't cry. And they're really sleepy afterwards. And it was so hard. Like looking back, I would probably wait. Like if I have to go through that again, I would probably wait till he's a little bit older, because it was just so hard to see him in pain with being so little, you know, like, they're okay. But then that on top of like all the other stuff that we went through just made it like, oh my gosh, here's another thing to like be upset about and worry about, you know. But he was totally fine. It was really just, I mean, he really only cried like that for 3 days, and definitely not all the time, just when we had to do his little exercises with him. Yeah. So long kind of recovery for that, because there's about 2 months that you have to do these different kinds of exercises for them. Mm-hmm. But he graduated from all that. So
good. Well, do you have any plans to have more kids in your 40s?
So we do have that one embryo.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how things go. I think that we're definitely open to it though. I mean, it's kind of funny. We kid around about Remy's little sister a lot. So I think we're like idealistically excited about that and want that, but we'll see how things go, because it definitely has been, it's definitely been a little bit harder in our 40s, and my partner's 51 now.
So fun. And you have time.
See how the next like couple of years go.
Yeah. And what has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Probably, I would say the worry. Yeah. Because before it was like kind of like, I just had total faith in the process and I wasn't worried. And then having to like go through so much to get pregnant, and then just worried, to stay pregnant, and just worry. Yeah. I think just the worrying and anxiety piece for sure. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Of course, the labor was definitely hard.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like expecting that. And I don't think that most, I don't think that everybody has to have a really hard labor in their 40s, but for me, it was.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you'd recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth?
Definitely, I think meditation for sure. I would definitely recommend checking out that Amy Raup Fertility, checking out her stuff, especially if people have some underlying like autoimmune issues and things like that. I think I was having a lot of inflammation and a lot of things going on. And then the bacteria situation, I had no good bacteria. I would really get in touch with your health, kind of try to dive in and figure out what's going to make you the healthiest, and, to make it possible. And then just meditating and checking out that Spirit Baby book and kind of seeing, if there's a spirit out there for you. And if you are so called to find the spirit, connecting and, just really getting really spiritual about it. And then trying to have the faith and trying to not like occupy your time and not like obsessing over getting pregnant, finding what you enjoy doing. Like for me, for that last like few months, it was running. I really like running gave me joy, and I was forgetting. I was doing all the things, but I wasn't thinking about them all the time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It makes a big difference too.
Yeah. Just finding the fertility clinic that you feel like hears you and that you feel comfortable with.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you had it all figured out.
Definitely acupuncture.
Oh, yes. I love acupuncture. Earlier, you mentioned that you had it all figured out. Do you want to go over that?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I think, when discussing how it took me so long to start labor and go into labor, the cervix, the way it was, and thinking that, like, if it was so scarred, then possibly sperm couldn't get through. Possibly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just possibly. And because I didn't mention, like, with all of my workup that I had the, I think it's called the HSG, that where you have, and they go in and they just put the saline catheter, and you see, it go through or not go through your fallopian tubes to make sure the tubes are open. So there's that test for tubal patency. So I had that test. The first time I had it was 2020, the fall of 2020. And it did show that one of my tubes, or no, it was both of them, that it showed that I had a blockage, and the dye, or the fluid that they show, goes through, and it just kind of disappeared after, before it got out. So they were like, okay, this procedure might actually help open it up, because it didn't look like they weren't completely blocked, and they were semi-blocked in the part where they thought that, it's better. Because I guess there's another kind of blockage to where it's a lot worse. So it wasn't that one. But I decided to have, I also thought that I was dealing with endometriosis. And so I actually had a laparoscopy for them to go in and just check everything out and look at everything. And while they did that, just thinking, this for sure, I'm going to have endometriosis, because I had really painful, hard periods for a couple of years too during all the fertility journey. But when they went in, they also did a thing to test for tubal patency, and they were totally clear. One of them was a little sluggish, and they had to put like more dye through, but they were, it was considered like bilateral tubal patency. Like, it's fine, So I'd had all of these, basically I had all these tests, all the workup, everything always kind of showed everything was looking normal. So I just kind of wonder that's kind of I just kind of wonder with that, all of that scar tissue and all of that blockage that I had, that maybe it just couldn't, sperm are really, really tiny, I know, but I don't know. Just maybe that has something to do with it. Some factor.
And what advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant, if you could go back?
Oh, I would definitely tell myself to just relax more and enjoy it. And I did really and try to enjoy it for the most part. But there were times, especially there towards the end, I was just so angsty. I was like, when is this baby coming? Like, I can't believe, this hasn't happened yet. And just being like so worried and angsty, and just wishing that like I had, but just, wanting to relax and just really try to do like some really nice things for yourself, like, spa day, like, just try and have faith in the process, and know that the baby is eventually going to come out for sure. And just relax and have faith in that, and maybe sleep a little more. But, it's easier said than done, because when you're in that time and place, you can't really do that. You're where you are,
Yeah.
But if I could go back, I'd be like, just relax.
And would you like to share your Instagram handle so we can connect with you?
It's Janice, but it's JA_nice5. And that's what it is on Instagram. I just have a personal Instagram.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Janice.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be able to share this story with you. So thank you so much.
And thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.
Little buddy just woke up.
Aw.
He say
Hi, buddy.
say hello.
He's hungry.
He is hungry. Baby just had a big blowout.